Imagine waking up one day and not recognizing the faces of the people you love the most, not remembering where you put your documents, not even knowing your own name. It may have started because of foods that seem harmless but carry real hidden killers for your brain. According to the Alzheimer's Association, 1 in 9 people over the age of 65 is already living with a degree of memory loss that destroys their autonomy. And the estimate is even darker. By 2060, 13.8 million Americans could suffer from dementia if nothing is done. What few people know, and what is rarely talked about, is that certain ingredients added to your everyday food are silently accelerating this decline. But take a deep breath. There is real hope. And that's exactly what you're going to discover in this video. The same ones that promise convenience but are sabotaging your memory without you even noticing. You will understand what they are, where they hide, and most importantly, how to eliminate them from your life to keep your mind young, active, and protected. And stay with me until the end, because besides showing you each of these invisible enemies, I will reveal a surprising trick used by longevity specialists that can shield your brain against these silent attacks. It's something so simple, you can start today. This information is rare, ignored by many professionals, but it is based on the most modern science. And the best part? It's practical, accessible, and can restore the vigor your brain deserves. Oh, and before we start, if you value your memory, if you want to remain active, independent, and in control of your own life, subscribe to the channel right now. This way, besides receiving content that can literally save your future, you help this vital information reach more people who, like you, deserve to age with dignity. Now, get ready. What comes next may forever change the way you look at what you put on your plate. Silent Killer 1. Artificial additives, the invisible poison that disarms your brain. Have you ever stopped to think about how foods that last for months on the shelves can still smell, look, and taste appetizing? During World War II, the food industry needed to find ways to preserve food for longer, transport it over long distances, and keep it minimally palatable. It was a matter of survival. At that time, no one questioned much the effects of substances like colorings, preservatives, and flavor enhancers. The important thing was to avoid hunger. The problem is that even after the war ended, these practices continued, and more. They expanded into all areas of the food industry. After all, it was much more profitable for companies to produce foods that lasted months on the shelves than to offer fresh, perishable products that demanded complex logistics and high costs. Thus, without most people realizing it, there began a flood of chemical additives in almost everything we consume: breads, cookies, juices, sauces, processed meats, breakfast cereals, and even foods that carry labels like natural or homemade. What no one warned is that the human body, especially the brain, was not made to deal with these synthetic substances daily. The central nervous system is incredibly sensitive. Every brain cell depends on precise chemical signals to function. Now imagine those signals being bombarded day after day by invisible toxins. The root of the problem is exactly this. The food industry did not create food to nourish, but to sell. Additives were not developed thinking about your health, but about aesthetics, artificially intensified flavor, durability, making a product more attractive and more eternal for the market. And in the middle of all this, the one who paid the price was your brain. Recent studies show that many additives like monosodium glutamate, nitrates, sulfites, and some types of artificial colorings are neurotoxic. They excessively stimulate certain brain receptors, causing a phenomenon called excitotoxicity. Does that sound complicated? I'll simplify. It's as if these substances turned your brain to maximum for too long until the nerve cells simply burned out from overactivity. The result? At first, you feel a little mental fatigue, difficulty concentrating, mild forgetfulness. Then these lapses grow. You start forgetting appointments, names, simple tasks, and if nothing is done, the process quietly advances to what medicine calls mild cognitive impairment, the first step towards devastating diseases like Alzheimer's. But now comes the question everyone asks. If we know the dangers, why do we still find these additives in practically everything? The answer is uncomfortable, but true. Because they work for the industry's interests. They make food look better, taste better, be more addictive, and most importantly, more profitable. And since the side effect brain deterioration only appears years later, there isn't enough pressure to change the system. It's a silent, unequal battle where the consumer almost always loses. And will this change in the future? Maybe. Awareness about the dangers of chemical additives is growing. Today, there are already consumer movements demanding cleaner, organic, additive-free labels. Some brands have started to adapt, but the truth is that this transformation will be slow, and those who want to protect their minds cannot wait for the system to change first. They must act now. The good news is that your brain is resilient. Studies show that by drastically reducing exposure to artificial additives, it is possible to decrease inflammation in the central nervous system and improve cognitive functions such as memory, attention, and learning. The choice is in your hands. Replacing processed foods with fresh homemade foods can be the turning point between aging with clarity and a future of forgetfulness. And before you think, this is too complicated for me, know this: you don't have to change everything overnight. Already start to build a new reality for your brain. The inflammation it causes in your brain will accumulate year after year. And when the first signs of memory loss become noticeable, the battle will be much harder. Preventing it now is infinitely easier than trying to recover later. But don't worry, because in the next section, we will talk about a second hidden enemy. And this one is even more treacherous because it hides in foods that are often considered healthy. You won't want to miss it. Silent Killer 2. Refined vegetable oils. The trap disguised as healthy. If you still believe that cooking with soybean, corn, or canola oil is a healthy option, it's time to rethink everything you've been told, which were accused of raising cholesterol. But the real story behind this substitution is much darker, and few dare to tell it. It all started in the first half of the 20th century. Producing seeds on a large scale saw a golden opportunity to turn the surplus of corn, soybeans, and cotton into cooking oils. It was a perfect business. The problem: these oils were extremely unstable and would naturally become rancid in a short time. The solution they found was a chemical process called hydrogenation and extreme refining, which, while solving the shelf life problem, turned these oils into an inflammatory bomb for the human body. These refined oils are extremely rich in oxidized omega-6 fatty acids, which, when consumed in excess, create widespread tissue inflammation, and the brain, being highly sensitive to inflammation, is one of the first to suffer. The human brain is composed of nearly 60% fat, but it needs the right kinds of fat to function well. Natural fats, not molecules altered in a lab. When you consume refined oils every day in your rice, in restaurant salads, building blocks of your mind with fragile materials that crack under pressure. That's why scientists at the University of California discovered that diets rich in refined oils increase the risk of Alzheimer's, depression, and cognitive disorders. And here's a curiosity few people know. You know that current trend of fit, restaurants that pride themselves on using 100% pure vegetable oil, well, many times that oil is the same refined oil, just with a pretty label. No matter how expensive or sophisticated the restaurant looks, if you don't explicitly ask for real olive oil or cold-pressed extra virgin coconut oil, it's very likely that your meal is being soaked in one of the worst poisons for the brain. Now, an important question. Did the industry know about the risks? Some old documents show that yes, they did. Internal research since the 1970s had already warned about the connection between excessive consumption of refined oils and chronic inflammatory diseases. But the pressure to sell, the interest in protecting the intensive agricultural model, and the outdated belief that saturated fat was the only villain ended up silencing these warnings. The result was catastrophic for public health. Today, millions of people consume these toxic oils daily without even realizing what they are putting into their bodies. And the worst part, the damage doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, sneaky, cumulative. You feel more tired, more forgetful, more irritable, and you don't even imagine that the wrong fat that fried that simple French fry could be behind it all. If nothing is done, this brain inflammation can evolve into serious memory problems, sudden mood swings, chronic anxiety, and, in the long run, but here's the good news. It is totally possible to reverse this situation, starting with a simple decision: replacing refined oils with true sources of healthy fat, such as extra virgin olive oil, cold-pressed avocado oil, or high-quality ghee. And don't worry, you don't have to eliminate everything at once. Start by choosing better oil at home. Then, start asking at restaurants, informing yourself about the options. You have the right to protect your brain. If you thought refined oils were treacherous, wait until you see the next silent killer, which is even more common and camouflaged in foods that seem to be the champions of health. And the most shocking part, it might be in your kitchen right now. Silent Killer 3, Hidden Sugars, the sweet trap that rots your memory. Few betrayals are as well disguised as this one. But what makes it even more outrageous is that, often, it hides where you least expect, silently sabotaging the brain while promising energy and comfort. If you think sugar is just what you put in your coffee or see in chocolate, ready-made sauces, natural yogurts, whole grain breads, cereal bars, processed juices, all of them often carry massive doses of glucose, fructose, maltodextrin, high fructose corn syrup. Technical names that, deep down, mean the same thing. Sugar disguised to avoid drawing your attention. And the impact on the brain is devastating. Excess sugar causes constant spikes in blood glucose, leading to a phenomenon called glycation. Imagine your brain proteins being caramelized, hardening, and losing their ability to function properly. That's exactly what happens. Over time, this glycation forms plaques that interrupt communication between neurons, accelerate cell death, and directly contribute to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, which, not by chance, is already called type 3 diabetes by many scientists. Now, here's a curiosity few people know. Did you know that in the 1970s and 1980s, the sugar industry funded fake research to blame fats for the rise in heart disease? That's right. Recently revealed internal documents show they paid scientists to divert attention from sugar, the real villain, and place all the blame on fat. Meanwhile, sugar consumption exploded, and along with it, not only did the obesity epidemic grow, but also the rise in early dementia cases. It sounds like a movie plot, but it's real. And worse, the consequences of this manipulation are still present today, on supermarket shelves and in the advertisements you see every day. Many people believe they are taking care of themselves by drinking yogurt with cereals or boxed juices rich in vitamins. But the truth is that these products often carry more sugar than a can of soda. It's an emotional trap. They sell health and deliver destruction. And don't think that only the obvious sugar is harmful. Isolated fructose, found abundantly in industrial sweeteners and syrups, is even more dangerous. Unlike glucose, which is used by the whole body, fructose is metabolized almost exclusively by the liver. When consumed in excess, it overloads the liver, promotes systemic inflammation, and directly affects brain functions related to memory and mood. And of course, the more sugar you consume, the more your brain becomes dependent on it to release dopamine, the pleasure neurotransmitter. It's like a drug. You feel a momentary spike of happiness, and the vicious cycle sets in. If nothing is done, this cycle of emotional dependency and brain inflammation can not only destroy your memory, but also reduce your ability to learn, make decisions, and maintain self-control to essential functions for those who wish to age independently. Now, here's the good part. You can break this cycle, starting to reduce hidden sugars, reading labels, opting for truly natural foods, those that don't need an ingredients list, is one of the fastest and most powerful measures to reverse the damage. And don't worry, you don't need to eliminate all the pleasure from your diet. There are incredible ways to naturally sweeten life, such as using whole fruits, good organic honey, or even getting used to the real flavor of foods, which, surprisingly, becomes more pleasant once you break free from the chemical sugar addiction. But here's an important warning. The longer you remain a hostage to these hidden sugars, the harder it will be to reverse the damage. The brain loses plasticity, and the tendency toward depression, anxiety, and dementia multiplies over time. So open your eyes wide. The trap is sweet, but the consequences are bitter. And get ready, because in the next section, we will talk about a silent killer that will surprise you. A food that many consider nutritious, but may be slowly suffocating your brain cells, especially after age 50. Silent killer 4, excess free iron, the heavy metal that rusts your mind. Few people suspect this, but something is happening inside the brains of millions of elderly people, something silent, invisible, and that literally rots their memories. It's not a virus, it's not a bacteria, it's iron itself. Yes, iron, that mineral we were taught our whole lives is essential for health, can become an invisible killer when it accumulates uncontrollably in the brain. And the most shocking part, this happens much more frequently after age 50. Let me explain. And creating a specific type of damage called oxidative stress. It's as if rust particles started to spread through your brain, slowly corroding the nerve connections that sustain your memory, your attention, and even your personality. This is one of the least talked about but most devastating causes behind age-related cognitive decline. Research published in the journal Nature Communications showed that iron accumulation in the hippocampus, the region responsible for forming new memories. And do you know what's even more cruel? Many processed foods, low-quality supplements, and even mandatory fortifications of flour and cereals add excess iron to the diet without real necessity, especially for those over 50. Without realizing it, many people are overloading their brains with iron every day, thinking they're taking care of themselves. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Control the consumption of artificially fortified foods, prioritize balanced natural sources, and, of course, adopt strategies that help neutralize oxidation. Certain foods rich in polyphenols, such as green tea and berries, are natural allies for this. But attention! If excess free iron is not controlled, the internal rusting process accelerates. Along with it, memory fades, reasoning slows down, and the mind loses the strength to resist neurodegenerative diseases. And speaking of protecting the brain, there is something you really need to know. Harvard researchers recently revealed that brain-sucking toxins are affecting more than 200 million Americans, accelerating memory loss invisibly. If you truly want to protect yourself, it's crucial to discover what these toxins are, where they are hidden, and how to act. I found a reliable source that explains this clearly. Just click the link pinned in the comments and watch the video. It's information that, honestly, everyone who cares about their memory should know. Now, get ready. Believing they are good for your health, and the worst part, it may even have been recommended by specialists. Silent Killer 5. Artificial sweeteners. The enemy that sabotages your brain while pretending to be harmless for a long time. Artificial sweeteners were sold as the miracle of modernity. Switch sugar for sweetener and protect your health. How many times have you heard that? But the reality that few have the courage to tell is that, in many cases, the cure turned out to be more dangerous than the disease. When the first studies linked excess sugar to heart disease, diabetes, and neurological problems, the human brain evolved over millions of years, interpreting the sweet taste as a sign of real energy. By consuming a food that deceives this expectation, sweetness without real calories, the brain enters metabolic confusion. It begins to distrust its own satiety signals, alters the production of important neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin, and, over time, can compromise essential cognitive functions like memory and learning. Recent research, such as those published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, shows that chronic consumption of artificial sweeteners is associated with a higher risk of stroke. Now here's a detail few people know. During the 1980s, when aspartame was approved for use in foods and beverages, there were serious controversies and public hearings in the United States. Many independent scientists warned about the neurological risks of the sweetener. There were allegations of conflicts of interest, accusations of manipulated studies, and a political rush to accelerate the product's market release. In the end, corporate lobbying won and consumers were left with the consequences. In other words, it wasn't for lack of warning. Today, artificial sweeteners are hidden in candies, yogurts, protein bars, ready-made sauces, chewable vitamins, and even in medications aimed at the elderly public. It's daily poison, disguised as modernity. If the consumption of artificial sweeteners continues to grow, the long-term impact could be devastating. Alterations in the gut microbiota, increasing systemic inflammation, hormonal dysfunctions affecting hunger and satiety, and damage to neuronal synapses, impairing memory, reasoning, and mood. But here's the good news. You can free yourself from this trap. The secret is simple. Reconnect your palate to the real taste of food. Opt for natural alternatives like high-quality stevia, not mixed with additives. And do you know what's most incredible? And a renewed sense of self-control over your habits. I know that changing can seem challenging at first. After all, sweeteners were presented as safe for so long that it's hard to believe otherwise. But remember, true science is not based on advertising, it's based on results. And the results show that protecting your brain now is the best inheritance you can leave for yourself in the future. And now we are going to talk about something even more alarming. A toxic substance that was considered revolutionary decades ago, but today is seen as a real threat to the brain health of seniors. And the worst part, it is still widely present in American households. Get ready, because this information might change what you put on your table from now on. Trans fat, the poison that was sold as a revolution and is still destroying brains today. In the mid-20th century, an industrial miracle was announced to the world. Trans fat, practical, cheap, durable, perfect for bakeries, the food industry, and fast food restaurants. And at the time, it was sold as an innovation to modernize family diets, like what happened with refined vegetable oils that we already discussed. What no one told you is that trans fat, this type of synthetic fat, does not exist in nature. It was created in a laboratory by altering the molecular structure of vegetable oils through a process called hydrogenation. It may seem like just a technical detail. When you consume trans fat, your body, including your brain, does not recognize it as a legitimate food. Instead, it tries to incorporate it into cell membranes, which causes deformations, communication blockages between neurons, and chronic inflammation. Studies from the Neurology Journal show that people with higher trans fat consumption have a 75% greater risk of developing dementia compared to those who avoid this substance. Yes, 75%. This means that for every 4 people who continue to consume trans fats regularly, but even so, they haven't disappeared completely. Today, trans fats can still be found disguised in products like industrialized ice creams, margarines-filled cookies, ready-made bakery products, breads, cakes, pies, and microwave popcorn. And here's a little-known fact. In the United States, if a food contains less than 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving, it can legally be labeled as zero trans fat. In other words, you might be consuming a zero product thinking you're safe, when in fact, you're accumulating invisible doses of brain poison with every bite. The real danger isn't in a slice of birthday cake. It's in the daily, continuous, chronic consumption, the one that happens without you even noticing. But it doesn't have to be that way. Replacing margarines with quality real butter, prioritizing natural foods, and reducing ultra-processed foods are simple measures that shield your mind against this degenerative process. And here's some sincere advice. If you truly want to protect your memory, protect your identity, protect your autonomy, you need to act today. Every choice you make in the kitchen is an investment or a blow to your mind of tomorrow. Don't wait for the first signs of forgetfulness to become aware. The brain doesn't warn you when it starts to give in, but it rewards you quickly when you protect it. And speaking of protection, I strongly recommend that you don't miss the opportunity to discover the full truth about the brain-sucking toxins that are accelerating cognitive decline in millions of Americans. The link to access it is pinned in the comments. Don't leave it for later. It could make all the difference in your story. Now, before you leave, I want to know which of these tips do you think will be the hardest to apply in your routine. Share in the comments. We're here to support you because no one should have to fight this battle alone. And of course, subscribe to the channel. Each new subscription helps this vital information reach more people who today, perhaps, don't even know they're under silent attack. Subscribing is an act of self-love and also a gesture of compassion for those who need knowledge but don't have access to books, scientific articles, or specialized doctors. And if you truly want to take the next step to protect your brain naturally, safely, and effectively, you can't miss the content I prepared next. In it, you will discover a surprising natural drink that many say is more powerful than traditional medications. See you there.